All right, happy Thursday, guys. Welcome to the FFL Solidity team call. Today is July 21st of 22. I'm super excited to be on with you guys today and really excited about our special guest today, Thaddeus. If you haven't heard of Thaddeus before, you will now, and you probably won't forget him. I know the first time that I met him, he had a really big impact on me and just the mindset and kind of proper structure of how things really should look in this business. And when people have the right mindset, activity, structure, my personal belief and what I feel like has shown to be true is it's always going to work out for that person. So without further ado, Thaddeus, how are you doing today?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be here. Blessed to be alive and ready to thrive.
Love it, love it. So super excited to have you on with us today. And just to kind of jump right into things with you, Thad, if you don't mind, kind of an
Mhm,
introduction of who you are, kind of what you were doing before life insurance, and why
mhm.
you chose Family First Life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Marissa, thank you for having me on. This is an absolute blessing to be on your call, and really to shed some light and hopefully I can inspire some people today. But so I came in here. My first dial day was December 1st, 2019. Prior law enforcement. I was in the military as well. I was an MP in the military. I was in law enforcement for 8 years total. My last four, I was with Anne Arundel County. Me and Ryan Urbanski, we were actually side partners there. And the biggest thing for me was me and Ryan actually started dabbling into what was it? Amazon. Amazon. So we were trying to do like Amazon sales. I did Amway back in the past. So I've always been like entrepreneur minded, but I just didn't know. I wasn't in the right vehicle. I just didn't know how to get where I wanted to be. And when I first got introduced to this business, Ryan, he actually sent me a text. He was like, "Man, I helped the family out today for my first time." And I'm like, "Yo, really?" And then he was telling me how much he made. And I'm like, "No way." And I'm like, "Sign me up today." Right. And like most people, like I was excited for a second. And then next thing you know, it took me like almost 3 months to really, get things moving. And when I finally did, it was a life changer. I helped 8 families out like literally my first week in business. And I was doing this on part-time, still working the police department. And the biggest thing for me was it was that year, Christmas of yep, December. Yeah, it was Christmas. And my wife and my 6 month old had the flu at the same time. And so that was like a coming to Jesus moment for me because I wasn't allowed to take off work. They wouldn't let me take out. I was essential. So I tried to take off, but everyone else was already off for holidays. So they didn't give me time to take off. They said either you're absent without leave or you need to come to work. And I was like, well, I can't come to work. I have a 6 month old and I have my wife and they both need me. So I left. I legit left. They put me on I was suspended for a little bit. At that time, all I did was work the business. And I worked it and I worked it and I worked it. And then next thing you know, I was making way more money. I was helping way more families. And I felt like I was serving more. So I was like, wow, this is an environment where not only are people encouraging me to do better, but I'm seeing like-minded people who are also entrepreneurs trying to do something better for themselves. And I'm like, man, I'm not really getting that from the police department. It's mostly dark there. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to way over here. So I did probably. Matter of fact, it was February of 2020. I left the police department. three
Awesome.
months in.
So
Yeah.
I was gonna say I have to pause you there because there's just so much good stuff there. I mean, in
Mhm.
terms of your background, law enforcement, and then also just like Ryan, right? Like if you and Ryan didn't know one another, you may not be here right now, right? So that the power
100%.
of warm market, first of all, right? But also,
Hmm.
like you said, you were very you were driven. You were never lazy, it doesn't seem, or you didn't want to work or anything like that. Business oriented, business minded. And then from the police department, it's almost like you may look at it later or now rather like it was a blessing that it came about that way, right?
It was definitely a blessing in disguise. 100%.
And I was going to say it probably didn't feel like that at the time, but now looking back, it's like now you were all in. You put all your chips on the table, burned the ship, so to say, and here you were. So there's a lot of respect there for that. And you always were serving and helping families in law enforcement, but just in a much different way, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
And now you're able to kind of have that hands-on, you can kind of see it, and it's almost not tangible, but maybe more tangible than maybe what you were doing before, but you're still serving. So that definitely comes from your
Yes,
heart and says a lot about you.
100%.
Um, and I love to ask everybody this question, that if you could bring yourself back to like your first day or first week or month at Family First Life, um, what would you tell yourself?
Get out of your own way. Literally get out. So I was never afraid of the phones. I thought that I looked at it as a challenge. I looked, and really what it was actually, mm, I would say get in the environment when everyone's winning. Get into an office immediately. I think that was a game changer for me, to be honest, because I saw everyone else on the phones dialing. I saw Ryan was brand new too. Ryan was only here for a month before me, and he's got on the phones, hopped on it, and just start talking to people, right? And I'm like, well, man, I don't want to sound weird. I don't want to be the outlier. So I'm like, well, I need to sound like I know what I'm doing too, right? And so I never wanted to feel awkward, so I just faked it till I made it. But honestly, if I was not in that offensive environment, if I was not with everyone else, then I don't know if I would have started off the way I did. But yeah, and again, the second to my point was, getting out of your own way, and that's just going to be, mindset. You have to make sure that you're putting the family first. Your pockets can't be the first thing you're worried about if you're trying in this business. It's not a get rich quick. Yes, you do make a lot of money very fast if you work hard, but ultimately at the end of the day, we're here to bless other families, and then we reap the reward.
Absolutely. And those are two huge, huge points that you pointed out there. Get out of your own way, right? I think that that's something that in life we all have to do at times, but especially in this business. Like you said,
Yep.
you were like, you didn't want to be the outlier in the office. So you were like,
Right.
I don't want to say the wrong thing. However, you put yourself in an environment where you needed to say something. So whatever you said was going to be said that day, whether it
Right.
sounded right, wrong, or indifferent, right? But
Exactly.
because you put yourself in that environment, you were willing to thrive, you're willing to be better, you're willing to get uncomfortable. And I think that that's huge, because if you don't get uncomfortable, it's going to be a lot harder to get out of your own way, essentially, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and then getting to an office, right? Like I can't stress that enough. And I'm really happy you brought that up. If there's an office in a 3-hour vicinity of you, like get yourself there. And the cool thing about that too, that when I first got started at Family First Life, I drove 3 hours to the Connecticut office because that was the closest office. But it
Mhm.
wasn't awkward or weird to me. It was, hey, this is what I have to do to sustain my business and my life. So I'm going to go there, but also I'm going to have a 6-hour advantage that day in terms of training, podcasts, everything else, from driving there and driving home. And never mind the experiences that you're getting within that office, right? Which is huge and
100%.
important. So I love that you brought those two things up, and you talked a little bit about
Mhm.
your mindset, right? Like your attitude. I feel like, and it's probably not truly this way, but the way you perceive yourself is like you never look bothered or like upset, or, and I'm sure you have your moments, we all do, right?
Mhm.
However, in terms of mindset, it seems like you have a great morning routine. Like I know for like the past like 3 years, that like you're up every day before 5 a.m. And I know that because you're tagging me and stuff on Facebook. And I'm like, Dad was up too. So tell me a little bit
100%.
about that. Kind of how did you incorporate that, and what does that morning routine really look like for you?
So the thing about it is, I am the most negative person, and no one knows it. That is why I speak so much to myself. That is why I do that. It's just I don't know what it is, but I stress out about everything. I overthink everything. And that's being transparent. Now, everything that I post, everything that I do, it's all talking to myself. It is. Like I just started this. Well, no, it's probably been about 6 months now. But I started talking to my team every day. Like, and what I mean by that is, the core group that I have, I send them a message every day, like in the morning as I'm working out. It's just some inspirational message that I'm thinking about when I first wake up and I'm working out in the morning. So usually it's anywhere between like 4:30 and 5:30 in the morning. It's like 7 people are getting this message, either whether they're up or not. But to speak to that is, you have to, this business, everyone says this business is simple, and you got to work hard. I don't believe that, because here's the thing: in this business, and I'm gonna be straight up with you, In this business, if it's 75% mindset, your mind is not simple. There's nothing simple about that. That's the complex muscle that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Every minute you're making decisions that will impact your future. So therefore, you have to focus on that like day in and day out, and it has to be very intentional. So when it came down to my morning routine, I started to actually look at people who were not outside of FFL, but people who were winning in life. Like I followed Dwayne Johnson a lot. Probably half the things I do, I mirror him, right? And what I did was these successful people, I tried to figure out what do they do, how do they live, what do their routines look like, and I started with one thing. And so my morning routine, 4 years ago, this is before the police department, but it was one thing I wanted to do in the morning. And the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to read the Bible every day in the morning. That was the first thing, because I would do it a little bit, and then some days I screw up and I mess it up. Once that came routine, 45 days is I have to do it for 45 days. Now everybody says that it's 21 days to make a routine. Some people say it's 30-day routine. No, Thaddeus, it takes Thaddeus 45 days because I suck. But I understand that for myself, right? And I'm gonna get a 75 heart while I'm talking about this, so don't let me forget that, because this plays an important role in this. And so that was the first thing I did. So it's reading my Bible, right? Then I wanted to read a book every day. So I was reading 10 pages out of a book, because obviously if you want to grow, in any aspect of life, my mindset was the biggest struggle that I had. So I'm going to make sure that I'm incorporating that. I did that. I work out every day, right? I do that. And then also I touch my business and my marriage. Very important. All right. Those of you who are not married, who are married, this is very important, because when I first got into this business, it was all family first life, and my marriage went down a lot. And so I had to figure out a way not to balance it, but to make sure that I was intentionally telling my wife and reaching out to her and making sure that, hey, she knew that I was there and I still cared about her, and the business didn't take over our entire marriage. Even though we were making money, like you got to make sure you have that strong core at home, because my house is my everything. If my house is falling apart, I can't function at work. That's just how it is for me, period. And then those are the 5 things that I have to do every single day. Now it took me a year to get all 5 things down packed, and obviously waking up at 4:30. Now with the waking up at 4:30, I started at 5 o'clock, and then I went to 4:45, and then I went to 4:40, then 4:35, then 4:30. Well, 4:35, then 4:30. And that's how I incorporate that. But I encourage everyone to have daily habits, and start small. Start with tangible things that you think that you can get done. Very simple, because what that's going to do is, see, it's all a snowball effect, right? Everyone looks at me now and be like, "Oh, Thaddeus, you got this great routine. Oh, you're so positive." No, and it don't start out like that. That it don't start that way. And neither does this business. So everything you do in your morning routine, all your routines, it just mirrors this business, right? So typically most agents start off slow, which I pretty much did too. I mean, I did get in my first week, but I started off slow, and then you get better, right? You learn the products better, and you learn how to sell better, and everything gets better. Telesales, all kind of stuff, right? But it all starts with the small things. So start building that momentum, start building that self-worth, build that self-momentum, that self-confidence, right? That's where it starts. Once you have that little bit of confidence, you then attack something a little bit harder, right? You keep that routine, but then you add another one, right? Because you always want to stay uncomfortable. If you're comfortable, you're not growing, right? So I strive myself into being uncomfortable. And I'm gonna say this one last thing about 75 hard, then I can answer whatever else you got. Today was the 4th time that I failed 75 hard. The 4th. Now, 75% of 75 hard, I already did. I did 75 hard because I'm like, yeah, I already do that, so I don't need to do 75 hard, right? Because I already did it. So that made me do it, because I'm like, well, if I'm telling myself that I can already do it, then obviously I'm afraid of something, because I wouldn't be saying that if I wasn't. So let me go make that challenge for myself. Let me go here and attack that. Today I failed. I failed the first time on my son's birthday, which was I was matter of fact, I was halfway through 75 hard. First time I failed was my son's birthday, and I fell asleep reading my book. I was supposed to read 10 pages. I read 9 pages. 10 days later was my birthday, June 23rd. I fell asleep and I missed a 12 ounces of water that day, right? And then I failed again because I forgot to take a picture. And then guess what? Last night, I did the same thing. I forgot to take my picture, right? Now, I say all that to say this. The first 3 times that I failed 75 hard, I beat myself up, right? For that whole next day, I was pissed. I mean, mother, I can't believe no, this is not me, right? Like what most people do. Like, I can't believe I did this. And every time I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna keep going anyway. That hit my mindset every single time. And it was that second mindset here. It was that second that I had a choice to make. Am I going to honor myself? And am I going to make sure that I'm doing the right things when no one else is watching? Or I can just skip it. Nobody's going to know. We'll be good, right? I had to make that decision each and every time. And it was the hardest thing. I mean, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do because I hate losing. This last time, all 4 times that I failed, what I realized is this last 4th time, this morning, I realized that this morning when I failed, I said, you know what that is? You have been doing this for 75 days already. And the amount of how much you have improved in your life and your health and your mindset is bar none the best. I've really only missed 3 days out of the entire time, but I've been doing it longer than 75 days, obviously. But I realized this time I embraced the fact that I screwed up, right? I realized this time, it took 4 times to realize that this is what it takes to succeed. This is what it takes to be on top. You have to go to the struggle. This business, you have to go to the struggle. You are not just going to come in here and just be great. Yes, we have some people like that, but that's not the majority. So you have to understand that. Embrace the suck. Embrace those dark times. It is those dark times that build that value, build that core, build that mental fortitude, right? That mental callous to keep going. Because as long as you got one more day to do it, you can always get better. That's what I learned today. So always reevaluate yourself when it comes to your mindset, when it comes to your routines. Evaluate yourself. Look back and congratulate. Give yourself a pat on the back for how far you've come. Because you're going to go through the struggle, but only you are going to be able to dig your way out. No one else is going to be able to do it for you. All right, I can go all day long.
Awesome.
So
That was
you might ask
jam-packed
me
with
some questions.
value. I'm like, I'm gonna let him rip because he's on fire.
Yeah, this is me. But that's actually what you see is actually how I am on a daily basis. This is how I talk all the time. But it's because I'm constantly telling myself this. Before I did this call, I was nervous as hell. So I went to go meditate. Dead serious. I do that every morning too. And I was like, man, let me meditate for a minute, speak to the Lord. Let me figure out, let the Lord bring me my thoughts so I can bring it to you all. And I hope I can inspire somebody. But that's real. This is me.
Yeah. Facts will definitely delivered. So because you crushed it already. So a couple of things that you brought up that I think are really important. The mind is not simple. I love that because everybody's different, right? It's like, I can't tell you how to feel. You can't tell me how to feel about this, about that. You can give an opinion, but at the end of the day, the mind isn't simple. So even in business, the mind is going to dictate what we are or aren't going to do on that day, right? And I love how you talked about, starting with one thing, right? Because sometimes we're like, we're going to change our whole life. And as much as it seems like we can do that tomorrow because we can wake up and make changes, it's about what's the first change you can make, right? Like the first change for you was, okay, waking up at 5 a.m. and then bringing it back, right? The growth, the 10 pages a day, right? But you weren't like, I'm going to read 10 pages a day. I'm going to do the 75 hard. I'm going to do the I'm going to do all these different things tomorrow.
Right.
You said, I'm going to start this in this little, so I can keep a little, a placekeeper, if you will, right? And I think that that's really important, because as much as you don't want to over celebrate, you don't want to under celebrate either, right? Like if you give yourself no credit for waking up at the time you said, getting on the phones at the time you said, making your dials, and you didn't get all your appointments by 9 p.m., it's like you shouldn't be hard on yourself because you did everything you said you were going to do, right?
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
love that. And I think that it speaks volumes, because you talk kind of about like that growth and almost like your growth compass, if you will. Like you had to put in there like business, you had to put in there marriage. I love how you pointed that out, because that is so important. I'm not married, but I can understand why that would be so important.
Well,
Like your house.
let me make a note on that too. I don't mean to cut you
Yeah,
off,
go
but
for it.
think about this though. Like how often in this business where you're so caught up in yourself, I mean, excuse me, you're so caught up in the business and everything that's not going right that you forget to give yourself some time, right? That you forget to just self-reflect and be like, you know what? Maybe Marissa today, maybe I want to get my nails done, right? It's something very small, just take that time to yourself, because we need that. Self-love is everything. Listen, if you don't love yourself, you can't go out here and try to shed love to no one else. You can't do it. So you got to do it for yourself first before you can go out here and really, really, truly protect other families. But yeah, go ahead. But yeah, I would
No,
say that if you're
absolutely.
single. Yeah.
No, and that's huge too. And it's like, like you said, even if you're not married, like you mentioned, if my house is falling apart, I can't, I like, it's not going to work on the business side. It's like, if my house is falling apart, meaning me inside, I'm not going to be able to help other people around me or help families, right? It just doesn't make sense, because I'm not in the right place. So in order to get myself in the right place, just like you're talking about that, there's small little things that I do each and every day. But it wasn't like I woke up and said, I'm just going to change my life, because it takes time. Like you said, you've been doing this for over a year. Are you perfect? I'm sure you'd be the first person to be like, I'm not perfect. No, I'm a work in progress though, right? Because you're getting uncomfortable every day. And then, like you said, it builds that self-confidence and self-worth, which I think is huge. Like if you don't have confidence, because you didn't do all the things you said you were going to do, or any of the things you said you're going to do, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to do anything, whether that's talking to a client, talking to your spouse, talking to your kids, being on the phones, anything in and out of the business, it's going to be difficult, right? So we, like you said, we always have that choice, so to say. Are we going to beat ourselves up, or are we going to celebrate that small victory? Like you said, something small, get your nails done, go for a walk, take an hour or two for yourself that day, whatever it might be, for some self-care and self-love. Always do that. And then embracing the suck. Like we all talk about that, like that's huge. It's like, I know that like I suck at certain things, and that's why I need to perform at a higher level. Like I know that I am not the best on the phones. I'll be the first person to say it. Some people would argue that, but I know that I'm going to need to pump at least 300 dials, if I'm dialing, to call and set my schedule. I'm not confused about that. So it's like, you have to embrace that, because you have to know yourself and know your numbers. Like Thaddeus, if you knew there was no way that you could wake up at 5 a.m. because you were waking up at 10 a.m., you wouldn't have put that expectation. You would have started at 9 or 8, right? So that you can feel good about yourself, right?
Exactly. That's where it starts.
Exactly. That self-confidence goes up, everything else should follow up with it. So I love that. And thank you for kind of diving into the mindset, because I think that that's huge. And like you said, on social media it can look like, oh, like everything's great. But you said, I talk to myself a lot because I'm actually really negative.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
when you said that, that hits me, because it's like, what you say out loud is what your mind is going to believe, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's why you're always saying it out loud. Like you're reinforcing what you're saying. So I love that. And then kind of going into consistency, because that's kind of what we just talked about. Like, how important would you say that is in this business? Like, if I came in brand new agent and I was getting started tomorrow and I wasn't consistent, like I was like, hey, Thad, I made like 10 dials, and the next day I made like 30, like, what kind of feedback are you going to give me?
Oh my gosh. So when you're talking about being consistent, can you see my camera or did
I
it
can
go
see.
out?
I don't know. Are you? Yeah. No, you're like frozen.
Is it frozen? Hold on,
Yeah,
give me a second.
you're good. I thought it was my computer.
Everything, my whole office, like, so the power went out and like everything is like all jacked up right now. So if you saw my office, it's like a mess. But you can still hear me though,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I was gonna say we can hear you though, so you're good. You're good.
All
Rock
right,
on.
cool. So all right, perfect. So we'll keep rolling. So you said consistency, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that is outside of mindset, that is going to be the next most important thing. And when it comes to being consistent, I actually, so I not only do I have my morning routine, but taking things that your non-negotiables that you need to get done, or that you need to accomplish on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly schedule. But you have to plan, and I think that planning is the proper way of having that consistency and writing everything down. But that is very important. Like making sure you're at the office at the right time. I get to the office at 7 o'clock. Now, when I was driving 40 minutes away, I was here like 6:45. I have no idea why I get here later now, but I'm at the office by 7. I'm on the phones no later than 7:45. Sometimes it's 7:30. Sometimes it's at 7:45. It just depends on how my morning's going, but never later than 7:45. You have to make those things non-negotiables, because if you're going to say, hey, I gave it my all, I died till 9 o'clock, right? I started at 7:30, 7:45, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I died till 9. You better be working. So don't try to congratulate yourself if you got to the office at 10 a.m., but you're like, oh yeah, well, I worked hard that day. No, you did not work hard that day. You need to make sure that you're setting those standards, those non-negotiables, right? Because when you do that, and we all know what they are. I mean, we hear them all the time in every podcast that you talk about. When people talk about what time they start, what leads they dial, all this stuff, we already know it. But it's how we decide to utilize it. If we decide to actually do it or not, all we get, again, this is about getting out of your own way. So yes, I can't stress enough how big that is, because without that, I mean, that's in anything in life. You without being consistent, you're not going to be successful at anything you do. Whether you're in school, you consistently went to school at the same time, you went to the same courses every day, you did the same monotonous things. But guess what? It's the discipline of having that discipline that got you to the next grade, that got you that diploma. That's what it is. So everything you do in life, it's you need consistency. Period. Period. I can't believe my
Yes.
camera's not working. That's crazy.
No, you're good. You're good. And I love how you said we all know what these things are. We just have to decide if how we're going to utilize them or if we're going to utilize them, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like we all know we should be in the office before 8 o'clock. We all know we should be dialing on Mondays and Thursdays if you're, in the field. We all know if we're doing telesales, you should be on the phones and you should be ready to go. We all know that, whatever it might be, you fill in the blank. You got to bring your kid to school. You got whatever it is in or outside of the business. The consistency key is going to be everything. If you're not consistent, eventually, unfortunately, everything will fall out of place. And I know
Right.
for me, when there's been times I've broken a pattern of consistency, I actually feel bad about myself. And I perform at a much lower level because I'm like, I'm not
Mm,
worthy and I don't deserve this. But when I can say I deserve this because I've been working so hard, it's like I deserve it and I receive it and I thank God and I'm moving on, right? And I'm still being
right.
consistent because just like you said, that Thaddeus, like when you had to go to school, like the principal wasn't like, oh, do you want to come in on Monday or on Thursday? Like they were like, you got to be here Monday to Friday at this time. So it's like if we can treat our schedules the same exact way, like if your employer was telling you had to be here and you had to do this task, are you going to be able to complete it? That's the question, because the
Right.
answer is we're all probably capable, right? But are you willing to complete it?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that how you said we decide how to utilize that, because that's so true. And you had brought up to me through text message that there was something that you heard on a podcast. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Oh wait, what did I say? I don't even
Um,
remember.
you
Shoot.
had said, because I was gonna say, give me 1 second.
I'm looking up to myself.
You said,
I say too much.
finding out something I heard on a podcast wasn't accurate.
Yes. Okay. So, okay, this may just be me. I don't know. And again, I'm just gonna give it to you straight. So, my biggest pet peeve, my biggest, is I'm a one-dimensional learner. So when you tell me to do something, or if you tell me this is the way it's done, or if you tell me these are the leads to buy and this is what I'm doing and these are the amount of calls, I expect that to work. I'm going to do my part, but I want to make sure it works. And so what I was talking to Marissa was about was I hate seeing podcasts, and I'm looking at podcasts, and then I end up speaking to the person about what they did. So for example, maybe say, yeah, I spend $1,000 on leads, and this person may be helping 15 to 20 families a week. I'm like, what leads are you calling? Internet life leads. I'm like, all right, is that it? Yeah, internet life leads. I'm like, so you mean tell me you writing you're protecting 20 families a week just on internet leads? Yep. And I'm like, come on, man. I said, you sure? So then I'm like, all right, maybe it's me, right? Maybe it's my mindset. Thaddeus humbles himself. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm about like 300 internet life leads. I'm gonna put them in call tools. I'm gonna put them in phone burn, and I'm gonna get after it. I got this, right? I'll go all day too. I have this thing. It's called um what do I call it? Mission. I made it for myself, and I can't remember what the name is called. Mission and Power, right? So a mission, the whole thing is a military thing. So the whole thing about a mission is a mission is you deploy, right? You attack and you conquer. That's what mission is in the army. Deploy, attack, conquer. So what I do is I take that and I put, man, this is really bothering. My camera's not working. But I take that and I apply it to this business, right? And empowers it, empowering me, empowering others, just being a good example. So I lock myself in the office, and here's what I do. And I'm actually doing this week. So I do 8 to 8, and what I do is at 7:30, I'm ready. I'm ready to dial, but I don't start till 8 o'clock. I dial till noon. At noon, I walk for an hour. Right, 45 minutes, excuse me. It's part of 75 hard, so I had to incorporate that. And then I dial again, and this is all, and I'm doing all telesales for this, right? I dial again until from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. No, I'm sorry, 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, I go home for an hour. I spend time with my wife. I spend time with my son, family time. Come back to the office at 6 o'clock. My office now is only like 10 minutes from my house. Then I go from 6 o'clock to 8 p.m. Right. And I do that 5 days, Monday through Friday. And what it does is it humbles me, right? It puts things in perspective for myself. And this is what I did for that. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna lock myself in the office, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this mission in power, right? This is what I'm going to do. And I was like, man, the results were not the same. I said, hold on, man. Like, this is what he said works, and I'm trying to get better at telesales. So I'm doing a lot more of that now. I have a hybrid schedule, but here's the thing about these calls, and this is why I'm so transparent on here, and why I don't mind sharing everything I know and truly how I am, is because at the end of the day, we don't learn, we don't grow, and we are not encouraged or motivated by people's success stories. And hear me here. We are not motivated by that. Okay. Brand new agents want to hear your struggles. They want to know that you're going through the trenches with them. This is why I'm attacking these telesales. This is why I'm attacking this internet life leads so much. I have mortgage leads. I haven't touched my mortgage leads in probably like a month and a half. I haven't touched them. I have like 60 mortgage leads, and I can just run them. But here's the thing: what is that doing for my agency? What's that doing for my team? A brand new agent coming here, they don't got no. There's no mortgage to lock out right now. The whole United States is like gone. I was looking at I was on Mail Pro the other day looking at some stuff, and I was like, yo, there's like no counties. There's like nothing here. I think it was like 10 total counties for mortgage protection total. You know what I'm saying? And so when you think about that, it's like, all right, how can I set myself up so that when a brand new agent comes in here, they can duplicate exactly what I'm doing, pretty much the Josh Williams way, because this is where I stole it from, and really doing it and understanding what it takes. But they need to see that. So that's I feel like that is my job, that is my duty, that is my responsibility to make sure that I'm being as raw as possible in every facet of this business, because I didn't have that in the beginning. And so brand new agents come in, I want them to be able to experience that. I want them to know what that feels like. That is why I'm really big on finding people who are truly going to give you the raw truth about the podcast and about what they're truly doing, because it's very important. And some people just don't understand it. So hope that answers your question.
It does, and more, to be able to say, there's, no one's really motivated by a success story. Like that's huge. And it's so true. People want to hear about your struggles, your failures, because they want to be able to relate to you and understand that, like, hey, I still fail, I still struggle too. And that's okay. And it's relatable. It's, hey, when that happened to me, I'm able to tweak this, I'm able to do that. So it's about, what's that doing for your team? I love how you said that.
Right.
Because like you said, if you just are dialing your mortgage leads and that's all you're working is flat mortgage protection, it's not helping your team. Because what you're saying right now is, hey, my whole team might not have access to the same exact lead type. So let me figure out this side of the system so I can work both sides. I can work in the field, I can work on the phones, I can have a duplicatable system that is both on the phone and or in home, but it's something that can always be duplicated. And I love that you brought that up, because oftentimes, like you said, there'll be people on, I've seen podcasts and it's like, oh, how many families did you help? And it's, well, okay, I helped, 50 families that month. Okay, that's awesome. And using what type of leads and kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of what does that look like? What does that cost? And to be honest, Valerie Stewart, who's on the call right now on the team, she always talks about the ROI on that, how the ROI on internet leads is way higher. You just need to actually work the lead. And it's about learning how to work a new lead. That's all you're doing, right? And duplicating that to your team. So I love that. And we have you back on camera, by the way. So
thank God. I look, I'm over here sweating. As you're talking, I'm carrying this thing around, like playing with all the stuff around, all craziness. This is me.
I can imagine, but you made it happen, and I appreciate that. And then, that just to kind of wrap the call up, anything else that you'd want to share, like with just Family First Life or with this group here you're talking to right now?
I mean, guys, here's the thing. When I saw your conference, and I'm like, man, you see, I'm humbled to be here. I mean, to be honest, because I looked up to you when I first got here. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about this business, and honestly, I still don't. I've been here 3 years, but I'm still a baby, right? And just to be able to be on this call, it's I truly appreciate it. I'm glad I was able to get on here and hopefully I inspire some people and put some fire in them. But again, guys, listen, at the end of the day, it's you versus you, right? It's you versus you. So you have to be intentional about waking up every single morning and getting after it, right? You have to be. And so, and I'll leave you with this. And this happened. So I was talking to Marissa about this yesterday. The power went out like everywhere. All my stuff, my computer fried. Have no idea what happened to it. And man, and I was struggling yesterday. And so no, actually it was 2 days ago, but yesterday everything just went the whack. And so what I did was I was like, I had the yesterday morning, I'm like, you know what? My buddy, he was like, hey man, you want to go fishing in the morning? And I said, that sounds like a great idea. Cause I was like, you know what? I'm struggling. This week is kind of been off. I was like, you know what? Let me just take a break. Let me go fishing. And it was 11 o'clock at night when he texted me. I'm like, I'm going. I talked to my wife. I'm like, babe, hey, I'm going fishing in the morning. And she's like, you sure? I was like, yeah. I was like, you know what? I kind of need like a mental reset. And then I need to get, and then I'm gonna get back after it. And she's like, okay. I'll tell you. She's like, whatever you need, I support you. I said, okay, cool. So when she said that, I had my green lights. I was like, oh yes, now I can really go, right? 4 o'clock in the morning. Now I wake, no, 3 o'clock. I wake up at 4:15. That's when my first alarm goes off. And at 3 o'clock, I wake up out my sleep and I'm like, I can't go. I can't go. Somebody out here needs me. Right? I have a duty. I have a responsibility. I have all my life to go fishing. And like I told you, all my stuff in my office is not working. I called Mike Fowl and I was talking to him about some chargeback stuff that yesterday. And he was like, I was like, bro, man, my computer's not working. Like, I can't do anything. He was like, yo, I just took my old computer to Best Buy and they completely redid my whole computer. It's like a brand new computer now. He was like, you can come pick it up tomorrow if you want. I said, well, I can come pick it up now because I ain't doing nothing. I wanted to go pick that computer up yesterday at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Excuse me, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm saying all that to say this, no matter what you're going through, right? If you are always focused on doing the right thing, right? And putting yourself first before anybody else, because putting myself first is me going out here, grinding it out, making sure that I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, not going out here having fun with someone who is not going to get me where I need to be at, right? And so if you're doing that each and every day, blessings happen. Who would have known it just so happened that I called him at that time and he was about to go pick up the computer. Now the computer's sitting in my office and guess what? Smiling and dialing, baby. You know what I'm saying? And so it's things like that. Like you have to understand it. You're going to go through these struggles. You're going to go through hard times. But I promise you, just take one more step forward. Tell yourself you can do it. Believe in yourself. And I promise you, if you do that, you will not fail. But it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take struggle. It's going to take a lot of effort. But you will get it done. That's it.
I love that. Thank you so much, Thaddeus. And thank you so much for being on with us today. I know you added a ton of value to me. No doubt you added a ton of value to the team. And last question I do have for you before I have you hop off would be, what are your goals to wrap up 2022?
2022 Hall of Fame. Definitely want to do that. Want my team to be at. Absolutely. I missed it last year. I was literally, it was only like maybe 2,000, 3,000 away. So this year, definitely that's going to be locked down. And then my team, I want them at least to be doing. We got a lot of brand new ages coming on, and especially getting them to focus on what actually works. Like these, I mean, the internet leagues working. I don't know if you ever use call tools. You ever use that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, got to get that. Got to get call tools. Also, a book I think y'all should get. It's called The Power of One More by Ed Mylett. That book, oh my God. I bought the book before it even came out on pre-order. And I listened to his podcast too. So if you want to talk about mindset, that guy, I get probably about 90% of my stuff from him. So Ed Mylett, The Power of One More.
The Power of One More. Awesome. Well, Thaddeus, I can't thank you enough for being on the call today. You really pointed out the importance of your mindset, the importance of activity, the importance of knowing that this is not always going to be easy. It's going to be a struggle sometimes, but you have to make certain decisions, and really just the structure that you have to have, and the willingness to believe in yourself and take self accountability, but also have self-confidence. Don't beat yourself up, but don't put yourself on a pedestal either. So you've added a ton of value today. I can't thank you enough for being on with us today. I know you're going to crush your goals to end out this year. No doubt Hall of Fame, and no doubt your group's going to be helping over 500 families a month before you know it. So I appreciate you, Thaddeus. I hope you have an awesome rest of your Thursday, and I'll see you soon.
Appreciate it. Peace.